Frogman Friday.
Yeah, boy.
Welcome to Frogman Friday. I'm Ryan Birdman Parrott. This episode is powered by Frog Fuel. Go check out frogfuel.com and use code FrogmanFriday at checkout for your 10% off. Today, our badass guest is Christian Meyers. He served 12 years in the Air Force and National Guard as a combat search and rescue special missions aviator, exiting service as a technical sergeant. He founded Terra Arma in 2021 in San Antonio, Texas. He also co-hosts the MedEVAC podcast. You can follow Christian on social media handles to follow the show. To learn more about Christian's post-service awesomeness, go check out terraarma.com and the medevacpodcast.com. Brother, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ryan. Happy to be here, dude.
Yeah, man. This is so good.
Post-service awesomeness. I like that.
Why not? Nobody told me that I was creative in English, so I'm just going with it.
Hey, I love it. I love it. Yeah. Post-service awesome sauce.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that. Maybe I'll use that one. Sweet.
Yeah, that's your new tagline for the show.
Yes. Well, dude, you're a serial entrepreneur, so I want to jump right in and start off with Terra Arma because you've got all kinds of stuff going on and you're doing it really well. So, and I'll tell everybody before Terra Arma, when I have a fleet of clothing in my closet, and the stuff is beyond comfortable. It's cool. It's comfortable. It looks great. You feel like you're a new person when you're in this stuff. And there are a ton of clothing companies out there, outdoor clothing companies, whatever, but there's just that rare breed that comes out with something that's so unique that you're like, when I put it on, I feel better. I feel good. So let's dig in. Tell me why you started this, what, excited you to start this, and what do you want to do with it?
Yeah, so Terra Arma kind of stemmed and founded from necessity. So during my second deployment, I actually incurred an injury on my shoulder from overuse. So they were issuing us these shitty cotton T-shirts that we would wear. They have the seams up on the top. When I was out on a really long mission, had my vest on, all my gear kind of weighed down. And over the course of this long mission, it ended up eating through my shoulder. So I had this kind of nasty wound that wouldn't heal. And when I went out, next day to go on another follow-on mission, again, I'm putting all this weight on my shoulder, right on this area that has been eaten through on my shoulder. So I never really got an opportunity to heal, and it was distracting the entire time. And to incur even a minor injury from your equipment, it's unacceptable in my opinion. So when I was going for my follow-up, my next deployment, I spent some time searching for alternative solutions, things that had the seams moved, things that had more comfortable fabrics, things that were really built around athletics or military operators. And there didn't seem to be anything really available. There was plenty of athletic and outdoor brands available, but no one was making anything regulation compliant that had modern technology built into it. So that's kind of the approach that we took. So I founded Terra Arma in 2018, actually, was when I first started. It was a mom and pop business, though. It was something I was running out of my garage, just kind of as a passion project. And it started to get more and more interest, and people continued to purchase. So as I transitioned out of the military in 2021, took the business out to San Antonio, Texas, where we refounded it. Myself and my business partner, David, we refounded the business to go from that mom and pop style to something enterprise. We wanted to take this and make it a real business because the solution was really helping out these military members, and they continued to purchase from us. They were liking what we were making, and it really started to gain traction from the product basis, right? So we really tried to set ourselves apart from the competition. Everyone's using cottons, they're using polyesters, and no one's really focused on the modern garments and textiles that are available today. So we tried to take the most modern and technologically forward products that we could and kind of smash them together into one. And that's how we ended up with our base layers. They are the single most popular base layer for military members today, first responders as well. So we utilize what's called a viscose material. It's made out of beech trees. So we use organics and recycled products or components in a lot of our products. So our flagship base layer, the Catalyst Lux, is basically what put us on the map. We decided to use a viscose base because it's incredibly strong, it's temperature regulating, it's antimicrobial, and it's incredibly comfortable. We incorporate a little bit of recycled spandex into that. So it moves with the body, stretches as you move. It doesn't pull against you. We relocated all the seams and we really built it around a military operator. And starting with just that one product put us on the map and helped us evolve into a full product range in line that we have now. And over the last, since 2021 until now, 2023, we've made big strides, and we've shifted. We started our manufacturing overseas. When you're starting a clothing company, it's cheaper and a lot easier to start overseas, but it's not where we intended to stay. So over the last 6 months or so, we've decided to take a new challenge on, and that's migrating all of our manufacturing from overseas to the United States. So a lot of apparel manufacturers, that the larger ones and smaller ones, they work overseas because it's cheaper, it's easier access. The management is much simpler when you're producing overseas, but you're producing overseas, and that's not something we wanted to do with our business. So, like I said, over the last 6 months, we've migrated all of our manufacturing back to the US. We've actually stood up our own manufacturing system in Huntington Beach, which is something that many clothing companies will not do because there's a massive amount of risk associated with it, and there's added cost to it as well. But that's not what we're really focused on. We yes, being net profitable is important, but sticking to your values and building towards the future is what's the most important for Terra Arma. And that's where we saw that. Migrating our manufacturing to the US, it helps with closed loop economics, right? We're employing other Americans to produce these here. All of our raw materials are sourced right here in the United States. So not a single dollar from the Terra Arma product is being sent overseas or anywhere else. It helps isolate those economics, and as well as selling to the government. Obviously, it's much easier to sell to the government if your products are sourced and made in the USA. So it gives us that much simpler avenue there, as the government is our primary customer. So it helps us with that, as well as from a value perspective, right? Terra Arma is a values-based company. We live by our values, and our products, our media, everything is sourced around those values, and having Americans work on our products is part of that value system. So ensuring we're able to do that is really important to us.
See, that's badass too, because as a service member myself, you want the best products. I mean, we're divas. We want the shed hot stuff. But at the same time, if we're going to send young 20-year-old kids overseas to fight, then they should be in the best stuff. And having it made, sourced in America, and designed from the end user to the end user, that's a huge deal. So, and I can tell you, like I said it before in the beginning, I have the shirt. I've put it on. I have the socks. I mean, I don't have the full fleet yet. That's a hint, but I'm going to get the whole fleet. Yeah, I don't have that hat, and I'm just jealous looking at it. But the shirt is the most comfortable thing I've ever put in my life, and I love it. Tell me a little bit about what does Terra Arma mean, and why did you design the logo the way that you did?
Yeah, so Terra Arma, it's Latin. It means earth armor. And Arma is actually interchangeable between defensive or offensive weapons. So it can actually mean sword and shield, right? So the idea, Terra meaning earth, and Arma, the focus for our products is that they are made for military members, first responders, or outdoorsmen, right? And we try to focus on utilizing organic, recyclable, or eco-friendly materials, right? So some things that are good for the earth or of the earth for Arma, right? For your military members, for your defensive, for your offensive systems, right? So that's kind of where the name comes from, Terra Arma. It's good for the earth. It's made for military members, from a basic level. And our logo, it is a very popular logo. I still love it to this day, but it's minimalistic, right? And it is made for the outdoors. We do classify ourselves as an outdoor clothing company because there's a lot of crossover, and focusing too narrowly on military or first responders, you lose a little bit of your audience there, right? So there's so many interchangeable uses between the tactical gear and outdoor gear that it makes sense to kind of lump them together. So that's been our focus. Most of what we make is for use in the outdoors or athletic spaces, but it pairs hand in hand with the military member or first responders alike.
It's Terra Arma, and then the subtitle would be Rad Shit. I'm going to tell you what right now, you're going to have to go check it out. Well, let's dig in on the podcast, man. So you're crushing it. You're an entrepreneur, and then you decided to take on a new challenge and start up a podcast. And to a small degree, I understand what that means, but I don't understand fully. So tell me, why did you start the MedEVAC podcast, and what do you intend to do with it?
Yeah, so my business partner, again, Dave and I, we started the MedEVAC podcast at the same time. So we're both business partners and co-hosts of the podcast. As you mentioned in the beginning, I spent my entire career in combat search and rescue, right? So my entire career I spent picking up injured people, whether that was in combat theaters or stateside for civilian operations. My business partner Dave, he was a former 275 Ranger, and he got blown up in Afghanistan, so he was on the receiving end of the medevac side. Right, he lost his left leg, ended up getting medevaced out of country, and did his full recovery through San Antonio. So when we sat down, we were wanting to tell these stories from beginning to end from both points of view, right? When I get alerted for a rescue, it's a radio call goes off, and much like an ambulance, we run out to the helicopter, fly out, pick up whoever's injured, bring them back to the hospital, and do the best job that we can to ensure that they don't die or have any other extenuous circumstances, right? Anything negative continue to happen to them. For the person who's on board that helicopter, that is the most pivotal day of their life, for the most part. Typically, if we're picking you up, it's for a valid reason, and you don't usually want to see us. But that pivotal moment in that person's life is just day to day to me. And so we wanted to kind of touch on every aspect of that, right? So tell the story of the injured person, what built you up to this point, discuss your injury, and then discuss the resiliency that followed, and how's your life changed since, right? So we talked to these injured guys and gals, to really get insight into how their lives have changed, right? So if you're an amputee or if you're a quadriplegic, what basic things in your lives have changed? What's it like for you to just take a shower? Or if you have to get a glass of water in the middle of the night, how do you go about doing that? Even if you're an amputee, getting up and getting a glass of water in the middle of the night, that's an extra 5 or 7 minutes, right? You got to get up, you got to get your prosthetic on, you got to get situated and walk out there. For you and me, we just pop up, go grab it, lay back down. It's not a big deal. So there's a lot of things that people don't really consider when we're talking about these injuries, especially not just the moment of injury, but the long term, what happens afterwards. And then on the contrary, for the rescue personnel, what's it like to have to endure these things over and over and over, right? There's this buildup, right? When you're seeing people who are blown up every single day, and you're doing your best to ensure that they live, oftentimes they don't. And what do you do? Like, where does that resiliency come from too, right? When you're doing your absolute best to save someone's life instead of taking someone's life, and they still end up passing, or X happens and you end up with a different result than you wanted. How do you work through that kind of thing, right? So displaying the resiliency, and showcasing it on both sides is the idea of the podcast. And we do have special episodes. We'll be releasing a couple more here over the next couple of weeks, but they're reconnection episodes. And what we do is we find a rescued person or an injured person, and we find the individual or someone from the team that saved their lives, and we bring them back together for the first time. So we get the full story of what was it like being, this special operations member. You hit the IED and you're picked up by this person, and we bring them in to tell their side of the story. All right, you remember this story. What was it like when you got the phone call or you got the radio call and you guys went into the zone to pick this person up? And a lot of times watching them meet again, I mean, it's an absolutely beautiful moment. And let me tell you, it's some real tear jerkers sometimes watching these people meet again. It's pretty insane, because a lot of them haven't seen each other since that moment, or even spoken to each other since that moment. And watching them come back together and be able to thank each other, for having such an impact on each other's lives without ever even knowing each other, right? It really is a beautiful moment. And let me tell you, there's some episodes that have some some real tears behind them. I'll tell you that much.
I can imagine. I mean, what a cool thought, though. Both you and David, you being on the serving side, him on the receiving side, and then bringing people. And then, I mean, so yeah, the things that we take for granted every single day, you're showcasing every single episode, letting people really understand, like, okay, today's good. And there are people who are having to earn it twice as hard just to do the same thing. And they're not complaining. So what a cool thing, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of insight and perspective that comes from, especially living with an injury, because especially from my end, it helps really, it gives me some motivation. It gives me some perspective shift, right? We've talked to over 100 guests at this point, and I can really, I think it's the best education I've ever received, just talking to all sorts of different people from different walks of life. But it helps me to put things in perspective for myself. If I'm having a shitty day, or if I'm being down on myself, I can kind of lean back onto that stuff. I'm like, well, it's important not to compare yourself to people, but sometimes it's important to contrast yourself, right? Hey, at least I don't have to deal with this today. I should use that to get over myself, or to deal with the things that I'm dealing with, right? I'm not in a wheelchair. I don't have to do these things. And that's not to say like you shouldn't diminish your own story, right? You should never compare yourself to other people because they might have had it worse. But if you're being down on yourself, or if you're having a hard moment, well, just try to use that as some as a sounding board, I guess. Compare yourself to it in that aspect.
Well, that rolls me right into it. So, I always like to end on this note. You served 12 years. I'm sure you saw somebody special in your life that did something unique for you, to you, whatever that may be. So why don't you give us a hero story on somebody that means the world to you, and share a little bit about them?
Yeah, so my very first supervisor in the military ended up being my supervisor through a majority of my military career. Jimmy Ford, he ended up being a chief before he retired. But when I came in, I was when I got to my unit, I was an E4, so brand new right off the street. He was an E6, and we kind of bounced ranks together, basically just like that. He would make a rank, I'd make a rank just behind him. He ended up being a chief, and I made it to E6 at this point. But he was my supervisor throughout my entire career, and I got to learn and grow with him. It's very uncommon to have a supervisor for more than a couple of years, especially in conventional military, right? You're usually bouncing around between units, and you're gonna change this, that, and the other. I got an opportunity to grow with him. I think as he became more mature and a supervisory level, I got to learn that from him step by step. And he took me under his wing the entire time, from what it was like to be in rescue, to dealing with interpersonal issues, and even just being a better man. I really think Jamie helped guide me with that stuff. And it's not to say that he taught me everything that I know. It was a lot of what not to do as well, right? So I got a lot of opportunities to learn from his mistakes in that as well. He'll tell you the same. But it afforded a much deeper relationship beyond just a military supervisor. It became a deep friendship and a mentorship. And I have a lot of thanks to him for everything that he taught me over the years, both good and bad. But I like to think that now that I'm out, our relationship has changed even again. And it's much more of like a family relationship now, is kind of what it feels like. That's what I would call it at this point. But yeah, I would say, yeah, he afforded me a lot of opportunities and a lot of education, and I'm thankful for that. Truly one of the best people I've ever known in my life. Yeah.
Right on, man. That's awesome. Well, I can't thank you enough for being on, brother, and sharing your entrepreneurial spirit with us, a little bit of your background. You got some pretty cool stuff going on. I know you've got some real big news that's coming up pretty soon that you're probably going to share with the world. I'll let you do that on your time. But for anybody who wants to get in touch with Christian, we're going to obviously put his social media handles out and everything at the end of this show. But go check out terraarma.com. Go check out medevacpodcast.com. All of these are open online, ready to rock and roll. So go support a vet, go support Christian, and his business partner, David, who is also awesome. We'll have to have him on soon.
Absolutely.
But thanks for what you've done. Thank you for what you're doing. And it's just awesome to be your brother.
Yeah, same for you, man. Thanks for having me on today. It was a real pleasure. I'm looking forward to next time.
Yeah, man.
Cool, brother.